Hi, my name is Lance Kezner, and I'm co-founder of Millie's Sippingbroth, based in Bellevue, Washington, the United States. And I'm really looking forward to talking to Prosper. I think we're going to discover, what it's like creating a product in your kitchen and how crazy ideas like broth in a tea bag can make it from 10 Lipton tea bags to 3,000 Walmart stores in the United States.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga. Today, we have a treat that's both savory and inspiring. Now, Lance, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, Prosper. It's nice to see you.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. I don't know if you can see, but my mouth is watering right now.
Good.
Great stuff. For those that are wondering what we are going on about, I want you to imagine something. Turning a simple kitchen mishap into a product now gracing the shelves of over 3,000 stores nationwide. Now, this sounds like a recipe for success, right? Well, that's exactly what our guest, LLance Kezner, the co-founder of Keep Life Tasty, has done. From adventure travel guide to now a culinary innovator. And Lance's journey is a flavorful blend of passion, resilience, and a dash of humor right there. So I want you to grab your favorite snack. If you can, grab one of his broth sachets, or perhaps, make yourself one nice warm cup of broth and then settle in as we explore how a love for comfort food led to a thriving business that's keeping life tasty for thousands out there. Now, Lance, I could go on, and like I said, my mouth is already watering. Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you've been keeping life tasty.
Well, my wife and I started the business after a job layoff in 2009. And I think we were really focused on trying to kind of take more control over our own destiny. And, those ideas came from my parents, who were entrepreneurs and had their own business when I was growing up. So I was pretty comfortable with that idea. And so we basically took a few ideas that we had and decided to try our hand in the market to see if, people would buy what we were making. And that's really when we started kind of, messing around with the idea of creating food as a business.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for opening us up to that part of your journey. Now, you said you were laid off in 2009. What sort of jobs were you doing respectively?
Yeah. So after, at that time, I was a software executive, and I'm right now in Bellevue, Washington, United States. And this is kind of the center of, Microsoft is just down the road. So there's a lot of technology around here. College, I did a few things that were, kind of fun. I was an adventure travel guide, as you were talking about, and went into business with my father. And so I got a little bit of experience in creating products and creating, a market, basically. But in 2009, the economy was, kind of in the tank, and we, just decided let's just take a little more control. And so we didn't have any food experience at the time. And, most of our experience was in being innovative, really. That's pretty much how we started.
Absolutely. And you were in software, and your wife, should you choose to name her?
Lori, yeah.
Lori,
She was a
yes.
teacher. Yeah, she was a teacher.
Absolutely. Okay. And from that 2009, was there a specific thing that happened in this year that all of you guys just seemingly lost your jobs at the same time?
Well, no, she was still working. I lost mine, and we we created we had a product that we had created from salad dressing. One night we had a group of people over, and Lori and I decided to make salad dressing, but we used way too much garlic in the salad dressing. And at the end of the night, we were cleaning up, and there was, the leftover dressing in the cruet. And Lori took a spoon and reached in there and took a chunk of the garlic and said, "Oh my God, this is amazing garlic. You got to try this." And so I tried it, and she said, "Oh, this is incredible." And so I kept making it and kept making it, and giving it to people. And that was our very first product that we created, and brought it to the market. We got a grocery store here interested in it right away. And then a year and a half later, we won Outstanding Product of the Year at the Fancy Food Show in New York, which is kind of like an Oscar of food. So we won this gold statue for this innovation. We were featured on the front cover of that magazine, and we didn't know what hit us. We really didn't know, because, we had no experience in this at all.
Absolutely. I mean, it's usually these happy accidents that normally result into, quite a lot of innovations that come about. But the name wasn't an accident, though.
The what was it?
The name of the business, the name of the
Oh,
food.
the name of yeah. It's interesting. The name came from, so Keep Life Tasty came from my, I would write an email, and I would just say Keep Life Tasty. I didn't want to say best regards anymore. I, kind of used that all my life. But I thought, why don't I'll just say Keep Life Tasty as kind of a sign off. And we decided that, that's a great name for a business, because, that's what we should all be doing, right? Is keeping life tasty. And so that's how we came up with that name.
Absolutely. And for the name of the broth, that also wasn't an accident, then the name that you ended up using for the broth.
Yeah, so the broth came a couple years later. Lori was still teaching, and I was doing some consulting as well. So, we weren't full time in the business. We were still, bringing in some income. And Lori was teaching, and she wanted to, in the afternoons in between classes, she wanted something that kind of hold her over between meals. And she didn't want, here in schools, teachers bring all kinds of cookies and cakes and everything from, leftover from the weekend, so that they don't feel bad about, giving it to everyone else. But she didn't want any of those things, to eat. So she used to bring a bouillon cube with her, because she wanted something hot and savory to drink. And there was nothing else out on the market. And so I said to her, this is really unhealthy, because it's filled with sodium and artificial ingredients. And, why don't we try, we have experience in the food business. Let's just try and make something that's a little more healthy for you. We had no idea that we were going to make this into a product. We just wanted to make this for her. So I put together some herbs and spices and dehydrated vegetables and put it into a cup. And she said, "This tastes great, but there's stuff all over the place. There's vegetables all over. When I take a drink, I'm getting it in my mouth." She said, "Put it in a tea bag." So I said, "Well, you need to help me." So we took Lipton tea bags, ripped them open, dumped out the green tea, put this concoction in, and we made like 10 of them, and she took them to school for herself. But she thought maybe some of the teachers would like it too. So she put it out into the break room. When she came back from class, they were all gone. And she told me, she came back and she said, this is amazing. And I said, oh boy, I think we have our next product. And we decided to name it after her mom, Millie, because the broth reminded us of being comforted and being taken care of. And that's what Lori's mom used to do for the entire family.
It's like we used to have that with like chicken soup, chicken soup. Is that the same sort of nostalgic feel that, you're drinking there? It's like a hug from a cup.
We've been drinking broth for thousands of years. Every culture has broth, of some sort. And yes, it's there to make you feel better. And that, and the hug from a cup. Yeah. The hug in a mug. Yeah. We've heard a lot of people say things like that.
Absolutely. So obviously your test batch was with the teachers at the school, and lucky enough, nobody died.
Right. Yeah. No one died.
Great stuff. And obviously from there, you started transitioning from home batches. Tell us the growth phase now, what you then underwent in order for you to then end up in the 3,000 stores that you...
We needed, there were a few things that we had a little bit of experience from the first product that we created. And what we needed to do was we needed to get our product into consumers' mouths that would pay for it as fast as we possibly could. So what we focused on was the flavors. We started off with a tomato basil flavor. And we looked for a company to make this for us. So we started making it in our kitchen, but at the same time, we were looking for a company that had experience in making this for us. And that ended up being extremely difficult to find. But I did find one. And then we needed to find a market. So the thing that we knew that we could do was we could go to festivals and fairs and weekend markets and sell the product directly to consumers. So here in Seattle, we have something called the Pike Place Market, which is very famous. People will go there as tourists and they throw fish at you. Anyway, we set up on the weekends, we set up a tent and we were selling our product right across the street from the very first Starbucks store. And so we got people from literally around the world who were tasting this, giving us feedback, letting us know what they liked, what they didn't like. And we had to give our pitch about what we were doing to literally thousands of people. We had to get it right so that they would listen to us and we could, kind of engage them.
Right. So it was more like that taste outside of Starbucks, like what they do at Costco, like give you a sample. And then were you also already selling then, or were you just doing market research?
No, we were selling. I think the market research basically came from us understand. We thought of our product as a hot beverage, a hot savory beverage. Okay. And at the time, there was no category for that. There's tea, there's cocoa, there's coffee, there's cider, hot chocolate, but there was nothing savory that you could drink. It was all the savory broth is meant for cooking. So we knew that there was a gap there. That's all the research we had to do. The other part of the research was, can we prove ourselves? Could we prove that we could scale this product in a way, keep the understood, because it was a completely new idea. and we didn't really have experience in this type of food before. So the ultimate market research was, would people pay us for it?
I like that. But the ultimate customer sort of satisfaction, like you say, is when obviously people would pay. But what sort of stories was this igniting in them? Because obviously feedback is the one thing that you guys really, really started gathering a lot of in order for you to then validate the concept that you were going. Is there any sort of memorable stories or matters that somebody mentioned that really got you to say, you know what, I think we've actually struck gold on this one?
Well, yeah. I think really early on. So this is the product. It comes in a tea bag. Okay, so when people see a tea bag, they think tea. When we came up with the first name for the product, we called it Millie's Savory Teas, because we thought, well, it's more like tea than anything. So let's start with that, and that's how we started. When we would tell people the name Millie's Savory Teas, there were two reactions. One of them was, "Oh, that's interesting." The other one was, "Oh, that's terrible." And the "Oh, that's terrible" happened more and more frequently. And the reason why was because people they were thinking about tea, right? Tea usually is herbal, or it's fruit, or it's sweet. But when you say savory tea, and they kind of go, "Ooh, I can't imagine that." That really, forced us to do two things. One of them was to listen to what the customer was saying, and get it in our heads that we needed to, if we were going to make this successful, we needed to listen to what people were telling us, because they were, they didn't have any skin in the game, right? They could care less if we were successful or not, but they were just giving us their honest opinion. So, that was really critical. The second thing that happened was 6 months after we created it, a very large company came out with a competitive product. Not only did they copy several of our flavors, but what they did is they made a mistake. They did call it a savory tea also. They made a mistake in the formulation, and what happened was people they went into wide distribution very quickly because they were very big, and people hated it. It tasted really, really bad. And whenever we would say savory tea, they'd go, "Oh, I tasted it and it's horrible." And we go, "Wait a minute, that's not ours." So what we ended up doing was changing the name to Millie's Sipping Broth. And that's really where we knew that the idea was going to work, because when they would taste it, they like it. And when we would say broth, in their mind, at least here in the United States, they would go, "Oh, I can categorize that. That tastes like broth to me." Oh, it may be strange that it's in a tea bag, but it makes sense to me. I drink broth when I want to feel better. I drink broth when I want to take a break, maybe kind of relax a little bit. I give broth to people to make them feel better. So yeah, that was kind of one of the big things. There were several things like that along the way.
Now, obviously, penetrating the market and having somebody go in and fail fast, obviously, as a big company, I think that was a blessing in disguise, because then now you knew how to approach the market in a way that was unique and things of that nature. But did you also not face maybe people being worried about what it is that they're putting into their mouths? Because a lot of people are very health conscious these days, especially, most people that are, fairly educated. How do you then ensure that, first of all, people didn't view your products as yet another thing that they had to get themselves into, and also, enjoy them at the same time?
I think that we learned along the way how to communicate what we were doing. Early on, yeah, there were a lot of questions like that. And a lot of it probably came from the fact that the product looked a little rough. If you looked at it from the outside, when you tasted it, though, it was pretty amazing. That was the key, is just getting it into people's mouths as quickly as we possibly, and in as many ways as we possibly could. But I think that, as we refined the packaging, as we refined our messaging, as we refined, the way in which we would engage with customers directly, that seemed to make a difference. Selling food to people, there's a big trust factor there. This is something that they're going to put into their bodies, and no matter if you're a small company like us, or you're a very large company, you can't take that for granted. And I think that we learned along the way, and we had a little experience, before, but I think, this really opened it up, because the category for this was much bigger. And so it was just something that, it wasn't something we planned. It just happened.
You see, when you talk category, right? I'm really trying to, put my marketing hat on here, because I'm just going to put you back to the time where you mentioned Starbucks. Starbucks presented themselves as the third place. When you are on your way to go somewhere, or you're away from somewhere, it's not your home, it's not your office, but it becomes the third place. Now you're presenting a broth. That's not a tea. That's a savory drink. At what part of anyone's day were you advising that people would maybe start partaking in this broth? And how was that received?
Well, I'll tell you, 3 o'clock is a magic hour. It seems to be 3 o'clock, no matter where you are. That's when you go. That's when you want to snack. Yeah. That's when you want, you come off a sugar high from lunch,
right? And
you're kind of at this lull, and that's what Lori was experiencing. Lori was experiencing this, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, in between classes, where she just wanted something to kind of get, and what we found out is that the savoriness took care of that snacking urge. And so that's what we really aimed it at the beginning. So, right, right when you want to go grab a bag of Cheetos or really unhealthy snack, drink a 10-calorie broth instead, and you'll feel satisfied. That was kind of early on. But we realized afterwards that there were so many more occasions that broth was going to be important for people that we had no clue about. That, it was from listening to the customers that made it really important. But yeah, that 3 o'clock hour is that's the magic hour for our product.
Absolutely. It is a good thing that you actually found that. Now, I'm just going to throw this out there. Working with a spouse or a partner in all of this trial and error and trying to figure out, it's a whole different world in and of itself. I mean, I don't think we can put together a chair from IKEA without 3 or 4 times walking away, just stopping out so you can get fresh air. But managing a business with your spouse can be either both rewarding and challenging. How do you and Lori maintain a healthy work-life balance, with all this going on?
I think that we both understand, the strengths and weaknesses that we both bring to the projects that we work on. And we really look at our work relationship as partners. And it's impossible to separate, your married life from business life when you're working with your partner. or working with your spouse. I had experience from my parents working together, so I saw the good and the bad, and so I knew kind of the limitations. And so I always had that kind of as a reference point. But it's just like anything else when you're working with another person. There are things that you have to kind of let go of and compromise and respect, and that's really where it boils down to. And we're both in the we work out of our home. And so in the mornings, our dog makes us take him for a walk. So, that's a business meeting, and so there are times where, we're probably discussing business where a lot of couples would not be doing that. So that's part of the life.
Absolutely. And I don't know. I just thought maybe one of you, after all of this, needed a hug, and maybe that was then the birth of the the broth.
Well, yeah, as she was a kindergarten teacher, she needed to hug a lot, after dealing with loud children all day long.
Absolutely. And you guys have obviously been marketing yourselves, and you've incorporated the sloth. Tell me the story about that.
Yeah, so here is the broth sloth. We there was a trade show that we were going to just this last year for dietitians. Basically, nutritionists and dietitians have to get certified by this organization, and so it was a trade show for that. We had a booth that was between multi-billion-dollar brands that were going to be at the show, and so I told Lori, I said, we need a way to stand out in some way because we're going to get buried. I mean, people are not going to pay attention to us or anything. And so on one of our, morning business meeting walks, we had this crazy idea of incorporating a sloth, a broth sloth, into our booth. And so about a month before the show, we proceeded to make a bigger than life, like taller than me kind of sloth that had arms that came out to give you a hug. And so what we did at the show is we put this sloth up next to, by our booth. We put a chair in front of it. And I proceeded to grab people that were walking by and say, the broth sloth wants to give you a hug. And so they would give me their phone. They would sit down in the chair, and I'd put these arms around them, and they would look at me like children. They were so happy. And I take these pictures of them. Okay. The next day, we had a line of people waiting to get a picture with the broth sloth. So that's how the broth sloth started. And, the idea of the broth sloth, what people would say, what's the deal with the broth sloth? Well, they're slow, they're cuddly. They, you can imagine getting a hug from them. So, we want you to, sip slow and stay cozy. And that's kind of the mentality around the mascot of the broth sloth. And he has a great bucket hat that we change every once in a while.
Absolutely. I quite like that. You really found something that's befitting, and it actually sort of works. It makes for fun branding element. And I've also noticed you use a lot of user generated content in terms of the M.E.D.I.A cup, which I've seen so many people taking photos of it. What's with the sticker at the bottom, or what's with the logo at the bottom?
Yeah. So we wanted, early on, what we were trying to do was to get to engage people, to engage the customers. We wanted them to share with us their mugs, pictures of their mugs and their mugs, right? Their face and their mug, right? So we had something called Millie's mug shot, and you would say, show us your Millie's mug shot, right? So show us you drinking that, and we'd send out stickers to people, and they would put it on the bottom of their mugs. And so that is kind of how we kicked off our social media um, aspect, which is engaging people in a way that was personal for them and fun at the same time.
Absolutely. And I love the packaging, and it's easy for delivery. Do you also do like a subscription based model for this broth?
Yeah, so we have subscription based model on our own website, and we also sell on Amazon. And so Amazon has a built-in subscription model as well. There are challenges in working, with Amazon, but at the end of everyone's use of the product, what we also realize, and what and we'll talk about this later, but getting into retailers, one of the most important things that they understood, or that we told them, was that this is something that you drink daily. It's a part of your daily routine.
Absolutely. And how have you sort of fostered this habit for people to want to drink daily? Because if there's no prompts, like there's companies like Kit Kat, they knew that people would want to snap a Kit Kat at a time when they're having their coffee, and they, really have a Kit Kat, have a break. Is that something that you've also done with, the broth?
Not yet. I mean, we don't have the marketing budget like they do to to do that. I think what we're trying to do is just let inertia, get people into the habit of that 3 o'clock desire, right? And a lot of people have told us, it's not just that 3 o'clock. It's, oh, I need this to kind of get ready for bed because I want to eat something before I go to bed, but I don't want anything. Oh, I started intermittent fasting and I don't want to break my fast, but I want something to just kind of hold me over, while I'm doing the fast. Or I want a protein drink, but I don't want a sweet protein drink. So I want to take unflavored protein powder and mix it with your broth. And all of a sudden, I've got another way to consume my protein. So we're still, we've been doing this almost 10 years. And I really feel like every day we're still in the learning phase, because there's a very broad use of our product across so many different, hospitals, company break rooms, airline beverage carts. I mean, there's so many different uses for what we're doing, and so we're letting people integrate it into their own daily life the way that they want.
Absolutely. And what have been some of the behind the scenes sort of lessons from your journey that any aspiring entrepreneur might actually overlook? Because this hasn't been easy in and of itself, from the customer research to being told by people, and you research and development, and having a big shop take over your idea and run with it and fail, and you have to re-educate the market again that, hey, that wasn't us, here we are, and things of that nature. What other sort of lessons from this journey can we learn?
Don't quit your day job. That's the number one thing. Do not. We were self-financed, and it was really, really, really difficult. I think we both made the choice to work as hard as we possibly could at all of our jobs, right? The ones that were bringing in money and the ones that we wanted to bring in money, and then we would have to make a choice when it got too difficult, so that, so we would jump to being, full-time entrepreneurs. So That is the very first thing. Don't quit your day job. The second thing is don't spend a lot of time planning out what it is you want to sell. Create it in its simplest form and see if someone will buy it, because that will give you so much more intelligence and feedback about your assumptions, and learn from those assumptions. Don't be too proud. I mean, there were times, if someone was kind of, giving us the yuck face, after, we were talking about it, you tend to take that personally. It's hard not to, but you've got to take that feedback and learn from it, and just get it in front of as many people as fast as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. The more people try it, the easier it will be to spread, because people will remark about it and things like that. So I've noticed you've got about 4 different flavors that you've got prominent within the business. Are there any other upcoming products or any other flavors that you're particularly excited about?
We do have more flavors in the pipeline, and more uses for the broth. What we're doing right now, because we got into over the last year, we jumped from 800 stores to 3,000, and what we really are focused on is making sure that people go buy it at those stores. And so extending the line right now is not a huge priority. But what is a priority is making it available in as many places as possible. So I was talking about hospitals, making it available for patients to make a fresh cup of Thai lemongrass broth, that would make them feel so much better in their recovery. Or if you were flying in an airplane and the beverage cart came down and they said coffee, tea, or would you like some tomato basil broth? Or being in a break room at a company where they traditionally would have snacks and coffee and tea, but having broth as an option. Those are the things that we're really focused on right now, in order to support the growth that we've done. Since we are a small company, we don't have a lot of money for marketing, but what we are focused on is that word of mouth, that familiarity.
Absolutely. I mean, and speaking of word of mouth, that involves, reaching out to your community and having them help you out, spreading the word and things of that nature. How has your local community in Bellevue, Washington, sort of supported your growth? Or maybe are you just like an undercover, celebrity that wherever you go in the shops, everybody already knows your name, Lance?
It's really interesting. So, so our idea is kind of crazy, right? Broth in a tea bag, and the feedback we get from people is, that's genius. Why didn't I think of that? Okay, great. I'm glad you didn't think of it, because we did. That's from the average consumer. We have had nothing but trouble trying to get local businesses or local stores to carry the product. It's been really, I just don't understand it. We've had more luck getting stores in New York to carry, and Florida to carry our product, than we have in our own city. And so definitely very undercover. No one really knows. We've had some local press do a story about us. And it's just kind of funny. It's kind of like, Jimi Hendrix was from Seattle, and he didn't get famous until he went to England. Then he got famous and then came back to the United States. So I guess that's, kind of our path too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see that in Australia as well. So many people, up until they're on the international stage, that's when and only they're recognized as, as Australian celebrity or heritage or things like that. But I know only time will tell. I mean, like you said, this has only been 10 years, and it does take time for products to, get into through to the market. But if you're already getting responses and people already singing your praises, I think, all you got to do is just double down on that user generated content and just keep, getting the sloth to hug many people.
Absolutely. And, I'm sorry that you're not closer so you could get a hug, but I can send you a virtual hug from the sloth.
Absolutely. Do you have your products available in Australia through Amazon, or do we have to wait for America to ship?
Yeah, we don't right now, but we hope to expand, into international markets like Canada, the UK, Australia. We do ship. We get a lot of orders through e-commerce. It's expensive. Unfortunately, the shipping is expensive, but we ship all over the world, and we've sent a lot to Australia as well.
Absolutely. Now, Lance, I'm really excited about where you're headed, and I'm really excited about this product. I mean, this is the first time we've had a food product sampled on our show, so we might as well just start a cooking show now. I think I'm very experienced in the ins and outs of starting and scaling a food product, but your life story and your experience and what you've been through, I think, is a blueprint for anyone that wants to get into business and is wanting to venture, into the path that you took. Any sort of last words for those that are umming and ahhing about an old recipe they're just tucking away and not sure where to begin or how to get started?
I think the most important thing is create something that people crave or have to have. Making another, sauce that goes along on the shelf where there are 50 other ones that are like that, really difficult path. But focus on the use of whatever it is that you want to the people, to the group of people that absolutely have to have it. Okay. And that market may not be really big, but focus on that to begin with. And that will tell you a lot about what it is that you're trying to do. Because what you start with may not be what you end up with, or the way that you intended it to be used may not be the way you end up, people end up using it. So, those people are critical. Figure out who those people are as quickly as possible, and definitely don't wait. Try everything.
Absolutely. I mean, as they always say, too many chefs or too many cooks will spoil the broth. I think too many questions will spoil this interview today. So I'm going to leave it as it is, Lance, because I think we've really gone through the journey that I wanted us to explore. And I really appreciate you for, being patient with me as we uncovered what a tasty life looks like.
Thank you, Prosper. It's been a real pleasure. I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. Well, I will thank you for sharing your flavorful journey with us. I mean, your story just reminds us that sometimes the best adventures start right in our own kitchens. You know what I mean? So right now, as soon as I finish this, I'm just going to put an apron on and hope some ingredients will fall onto the ground somewhere, and whatever I pick up will become the next best thing. And I'll be calling you up, Lance, and I'll be sending you a sample of...
Absolutely. I look forward to it. And the broth and the sloth does too.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. For those that are listening and you're eager to add a comforting sip into your day, please visit sippingbroth.com. I will put that link in the show notes so that you can explore the delicious offerings. I was just looking at the website while we were talking, and now my mouth is just watering because the flavors are just so appetizing, and it's just remarkable what Lance and Lori have managed to cook up in their own kitchen. But while you're at it, don't forget our next episode where we're going to be diving into ideas designed to bring more happiness into your daily life. And if today's discussion stirred up your appetite for inspiration, I encourage you to share this podcast with somebody who's trying to get a brand started or has been trying to create a food product and hasn't sort of known where to begin or was not confident enough that people might absolutely love what they are creating. And don't forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show. You might just miss out on some tasty treats that we always bring into you every single day. Until next time, bye for now.